Welcome to this ZebraCut video exploring how to train ZebraCut to recognize a new alphabet or new font. So here we are. I have my letters in CNC format. As you can see, these are comprised of a series of curves. These curves actually come from AlphaCam. Now it's really important that when we undertake this that all of our letters are on the same layer, in this case on the default layer, and that all of the curves have been unjoined or exploded, so you can see there's all individual curves here. Now I'd recommend that you export the whole alphabet, both in lowercase and in uppercase, and also numbers and any punctuation you may wish to use as well. Now the process of learning an individual letter is very straightforward. You simply select the letter and then you simply type in the command learn letter, and then you type in the text that those letters represent. So for example, this letter represents a lowercase a, and then you'll see ZebraCut has learned the letter. It's added a border to the letter and then a text dot with the actual letter in it itself. And obviously we just repeat this process down the road. I'm just making a quick copy of these so that we can use it for testing. So let's just learn a few more. Learn letter B, and then we'll learn letter C, and then we'll learn letter D. Obviously this takes a few minutes, but very straightforward. There we go. Now one thing that's important to notice here is that our letters are all up and down in the y-axis. They seem to be kind of forming a little wave here. Now to avoid that, I'm just going to select all of the text dots. You can do that, for example, by right-clicking on the text layer and saying select objects. And then under the transform window, you'll see this little icon here, which is set X, Y, Z coordinates. If you press that, you get a little pop-up and you can say set Y. And once you say set Y, you can then select what the Y should be, and you should put that in the center of your text, just like that. Now I'd also recommend that you move your text down so that those text dots are sitting on the x-axis itself. So that would be the ideal, and we've learned these letters here. Now if you want to test these letters, open up text to curves, change the alphabet to say current, and then you can select some letters and then run this. So if I apply it with just a selection, you'll see that it's now replaced those letters with pieces of text. So these are actual text objects. So success. Now it's very likely you're going to have to change some of the settings in here. I'll just give you a bit of a high-level overview of what settings you may wish to change. The most important one will be scale. So if you want to be able to learn letters that are larger or smaller than your reference alphabet, you'll need to change the maximum and minimum scale. Generally between half the size to 3 times the size is reasonable. We're scaling the height here. You can explore changing the 2 search radiuses. There's a description of those if you're not finding the letters. If you're not finding the letters, then a good thing to do is to say show the misses when you visualize it, and it will try and give you an idea of why it's missing. Another thing that's also going to be very common is you're going to need to try and change the expected character spacing. Obviously you can use the analyze distance in here to try and measure the distance between the text dots on average. So for example, these ones are actually looking around 60 millimeters, so I need to change the average character spacing to say 60 millimeters. And then obviously looking again to change the radius in that. We're looking here, for example, to try and change that to perhaps, let's say, 30 millimeters or so from there. Other things you might need to change, well, you may need to look at changing the fit radius, depending on how large your letters are. So this is looking for where all the curves are in a letter, and that might be, for example, we want to put that up to say 3 mil, because this is quite a large font. If your text is not entirely in a straight line, you may wish to change your direction tolerance. Again, that's an angle, and generally you want to keep it as low as possible, but if your text isn't quite aligned in straight lines, you may wish to increase that. As I say, we can always give you a hand setting up new alphabets to learn. It's worth saying that none of this is specific to text. If you want to learn a particular logo or mark or something else that's just a piece of geometry, the same system can be used to learn pieces of geometry, but of course it is meant ideally for learning text. At any rate, once you've done and created your alphabet and you've gone through all of your letters, what you then need to do is to save the file as a 3DM file, and that needs to be saved into a particular location. So I'll do that now. So save as, and I'm going to go to C, BW, settings, ZebraCut, alphabets, and I'm going to save it in here. So this is the AlphaCam CNC 3DM file. So I've saved that, and now I can reference AlphaCam CNC in my alphabet in the curve to text prep step. Once you've got a prep step that works for your alphabet, I would recommend that you export that as a prep step, and then you can import it at other times to use it in your documents, because these settings will be quite specific to your alphabet. There is really just no way around that. Text is quite a specific thing. So there you go, that's how to learn a new alphabet and teach ZebraCam how to learn its letters. Thank you very much indeed.